Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on April 20th, 2015, and, this is the go-home show right before the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, and, honestly, going into this pay-per-view, I don't care for much of the storylines in there, just because on the aspect, or even really care about too many of the matches. I mean, some of them should be very interesting, especially if some of them get to actually happen, especially the Daniel Bryan Bad News Barrett match. That should be a relatively good match, but that all depends on what's going on technically. And real aspects of it. Daniel Bryan's been having issues with his health as of late, so they're trying to debate on whether or not the match is even going to happen, or if this is just one of their ways of teasing it. And all of a sudden, he's completely fine for the pay-per-view. So who knows where they're actually going with that? But they have been keeping Daniel Bryan off of TV a lot as of late, so you would assume that it would be on the more non-storyline side for that. The aspect behind the whole Dolph Ziggler and Sheamus match, or the Kiss My Arse match, okay, that great stipulation there. The match name itself, and obviously the stipulation of the match, is quite stupid, but the stuff that they did tonight I thought was relatively good. Basically with Sheamus and his match with Zack Ryder, I liked how they had Sheamus showing his overwhelming cockiness inside of this match by basically talking over the microphone the entire time. It came off great. I liked what they did there. Can't say enough that I actually liked that segment of the show, especially with Dolph Ziggler coming out and getting one up on him, and then the rebuttal a little bit later where Sheamus gets one up over Dolph Ziggler, costing him his match with Seth Rollins. So that was at least a good way of going into the match, but the match stipulation itself is just it just isn't good. It's just kind of stupid. Where they're going with the whole Divas title thing, they wrote Paige off last week, so they're assuming that you're not going to actually have the match with her and Nikki Bella at the pay-per-view. So you would assume that they would try to, since they kind of advertised one, they were gonna try to replace it. I'm more likely they'll do it with Naomi, but it was kind of weird the fact that they just turned Naomi heel. Now she's gonna have a Divas title shot with another heel diva and going up against a heel diva tonight. So doesn't make too much sense in there, but then again, they're kind of just throwing that thing together at this point. So that should be interesting. Well, won't really be all that interesting, but it will be. We'll see where they actually go with that. If they decide to go with Naomi against Nikki Bella, and then they can do something with a feud with Paige and Naomi when they bring Paige back, when they write Paige back in. So we'll see where they actually go with that. The whole John Cena Rusev feud. Obviously, they did the open challenge, which throughout the whole night you saw the frustrations building with Kane and Seth Rollins. So this is going to lead into that U.S. title match. You saw the frustrations building with Kane and Seth Rollins in their storyline. I like the promo that the two of them did out there in the middle of the ring, basically going off on each other. Came off almost semi-genuine and came off very well. They did a really good job of performing that promo, both Kane and Seth Rollins, which eventually led to some backstage segments with Kane basically showing that he was saying that he still has the fire and brimstone. He was going to prove it later that night, which led to him accepting John Cena's open challenge for the U.S. title. Relatively good match, basically having Kane in control the entire time, and then him just eventually losing. For the U.S. Open title, the whole U.S. Open challenge match from Cena, I kind of hope next week they go back to the more up-and-comers, because I feel that's where they were initially going, but the fact that they were going into a feud, or going into the pay-per-view with a U.S. title match, this was not necessarily a bad thing for this week that they went with a more established star. Hopefully next week, with the fact that they might not have a full feud going for John Cena at that time, that they will actually go back to more up-and-comers accepting the challenge for the U.S. title, so we'll get to see that, and then have Cena building up new stars, hopefully in that case, and letting them get to show off with a more established star. So hopefully that's where they're going with it. The whole aspect after the match where they interrupt Miz's interview before his match to go to a interview with John Cena. That was kind of an interesting way. I like how they're shown, like, you have Miz claiming to be this and be that with a movie star and everything, and that aspect, and him continually getting interrupted. It's a nice little comedy shtick that they can go with for that heel character. And then of course with Cena getting attacked by Rusev, and they're setting up more for their chain match for the actual pay-per-view itself. So that entire segment there, that came off relatively well. It wasn't too bad. Rusev and Cena have been working together for the past couple months. It's been relatively good. So this will more than likely end the feud this month, and we'll see where they go with that with Rusev afterwards, and same with John Cena. So this leads into the whole. This leads me into my aspect behind the whole Randy Orton thing throughout the entire night. Should have been done a long time ago, all honesty. But also was not done all that well. They could have done a lot more with this. They could have done this a long time ago with the whole RKO vibes that went out. But they kind of went with that route tonight, but they only did it in about 2 or 3 segments, and you only had them going after 1 or 2 guys. Throughout the entire night. You had him get 2 RKOs right at the beginning segment there. Decent promo at the beginning of the show by Randy Orton. Nothing to write home about. Basic stuff, what you would expect Randy Orton to say. It's like, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Basically explain everything he wants to do to Seth Rollins at the pay-per-view and for the night. So nothing really to write home about promo-wise there. He gets 2 RKOs at the end of it. Eventually, you have a backstage segment with Heath Slater and Eric Rowan, where Heath Slater gets an RKO. I do like the aspect that Orton was counting the number of RKOs he was getting throughout the night. That was a nice little touch to the entire thing, but still didn't fully save what they were going for there. And then, of course, he eventually RKO's The Miz after Miz's match with Mizdow, which was also ending their storyline with the whole Damien Mizdow and The Miz, at least in the terms of Sandow being called Damien Mizdow. Now they can go somewhere else, and they might continue the feud with him and Miz. He has a little bit of a revenge factor going into there, now that he has to give up his gimmick and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see where they go with that, or they just kind of get rid of Sandow altogether at this point. Who knows what they're going to actually go for in there. So we'll see, like I said, we'll see where they're going with it. You had another promo from Bray Wyatt, basically being, still trying to be as cryptic as possible about who he's going after. My thoughts are Ryback. Ryback could be one of those people who was basically talking about, like, everyone, how much he lifts, how much the person lifts, or how many muscles they have. I mean, the other aspect is they could be having him go up with a established star from the in there, a more veteran star, which would be Mark Henry in that case. So we'll see where they're actually going with that. There's, like I said, they're trying to be cryptic with it. And who he's actually going to go after next. I think they're doing a better job this time of it than they were with The Undertaker. So we'll see where they're going to go with that storyline in the very near future. More than likely that'll get announced on Raw or something like that. And that brings me to the final portion of the show, which was after the whole Seth Rollins Dolph Ziggler match. You had the continuation of him and Kane being at odds, and now Kane's also the gatekeeper for the steel cage match, which is another just great thing that they decided to add to the match itself. That Not that that match's stipulations were already bad enough as it was, with them banning a move in a match that has no disqualifications. Now they're putting a gatekeeper in there. Boy, what can I say? You got two guys that are really good, and what's got to be one of the most, how do I want to put this? Old TNA convolution of stipulations for no good reason. How about that? That's what the WWE World Heavyweight title match is basically for Sunday. It's one of those. So basic spot at the end, they're all arguing out of the ring, and obviously the steel cage is getting lower because Seth wants protection from Kane. Obviously Randy Orton's going to sneak in at the last second, and all of a sudden they're locked in there, which was basically happened. Another really good RKO in this one. Not as good as the WrestleMania one, but still a relatively good RKO where Randy Orton catches him after he whips him off the top rope. So overall, the segment itself was not bad in that case. And it was really well done. But like I said, everything leading into the pay-per-view, like things leading into the pay-per-view aren't that bad, but the pay-per-view matches themselves just have, outside of a couple of them, they just have these stupid stipulations. I like the whole Luke Harper and Dean Ambrose are going into a street fight in there. That's going to be at least something interesting to watch on the show. And they did a relatively good setup earlier in the night with them. Basically, it's like, oh, that looks like they're gonna have their match. No, basic setup, nothing to write home about, but at least it's a setup to something that could be at least semi-interesting and fun to watch on the pay-per-view. But like I said, you have Dolph Ziggler and Sheamus doing a kiss my ass, but they call it kiss my arse because Sheamus said it. So, and then of course the way that they're doing the WWE World Heavyweight title stipulations right now, man, they're just they're over convoluting that match, and it's not. In the end, I don't think it's going to end up being all that good, which is unfortunate for Seth Rollins, who just got the title at this point in time. So we'll see how the show goes with Extreme Rules on Sunday, and that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw. And I thank you guys for watching.